Are you a serious dinosaur collector that wants to make better buying decisions? If so, this is the show for you. Welcome to episode 32 of the Dinosaur Review Show. We continue on our path of reviewing the T-Rex. This episode, we're going to review all the T-Rex figures from Schleich. We have 6 different figures to look at today. George, where would you like to get started?
Let's start with the adult T-Rex. This adult T-Rex, as it's labeled, has a very good sculpt of the skull. And you can tell by the shadings that they use to pronounce different areas of the skull. Here we have the ocular, and then we have the lateral fenestra, then we've got the anteorbital fenestra there, the nares. It's very, very accurate to the sculpt of the skull. What's different about this figure and other T-Rex figures that I've seen is the pronunciation of the neck bones here. They look really tall, which is more in line with the classical interpretation of T-Rex when they were standing more upright than horizontal. So this is like a very interesting posture for it. The arms are a little bit too big in proportion. See that? They almost come out all the way to the jaw. Very, very big. The mouth does open and close. It is a different color inside, which if you can take a look in there, it looks wet, so they added a little bit of that sheen to it. Its eyes are a bright yellow that really pops with the paint. The scaling is very different on all these, and they do have these nasal osteoderms as well as over the eyes, which is good. So far so good. It is a little shrink wrapped. You can see the ribs there on the side, and the scales are very randomly shaped. I would say that the scales do not pass the test, but this part is cool. See those osteoderms interlocking? It's very much like a crocodile. If we look underneath, we see that it does have the middle toe pinched off. On the other side, we do not see a cloaca, unfortunately. But overall, it's a pretty decent T-Rex figure, although it is standing very straight. It's not balancing out his body very well, though.
Okay, George, let's take a look at the juvenile figure.
Look at this beauty. You know, it's not often that a company makes a juvenile version. Typically, it's either a baby or an adult. Most often adult. Let's see if the mouth opens. There we go. So it does open a little bit. It's like it's looking up at its mommy. It's kind of cute. Or it's about to roar. That's still pretty cool. Which, by the way, dinosaurs did not roar. There's no evidence for it. The only animals that we know that roar are mammals like lions, tigers, and bears.
Oh my.
I know. Sorry to burst your bubble, but they did not roar. This dinosaur, its arms I'm willing to forgive because the younger a T-Rex was, the proportion of its arms were larger to its body than they were to an adult T-Rex. So that one's okay. The scales are smaller and better sculpted, so I think this is closer to what we know about T-Rex skin. The mouth and the inside is pretty hard to see, but it does have those bony features that we were talking about above the nose and above the head. The head sculpt's pretty accurate. The toes, it's kind of harder to tell whether they're pinched off or not. And there's no cloaca. It doesn't seem as shrink wrapped as the previous one, so I do like this a lot. This is a very good stance, very good proportion. This is a good one.
Okay, George, we have 4 models left from Schleich. All of them are exactly the same sculpt, just in different colors. Let's take a look at them.
Let's start with the classic Schleich T-Rex. This guy was probably one of the first dinosaur toys that I had. In fact, one of the first T-Rexes. This is a classic. I'm sure a lot of you viewers at home either have this or had it at some point, and it honestly still goes hard, as the kids would say nowadays. It has a very robust skull. Very ferocious. Look at that lower mandible. This is bigger than it would have been in life. So that's kind of like an artistic liberty I'm sure they took, making it look more muscular than it actually was. The top of the skull is a little bit horizontally compressed. I do like it when the brow horns are more pronounced. They do have the bony protrusions just like we talked about before. Teeth aren't well painted in this one or individually sculpted. The paint kind of binds them together. The scales are consistent. They are small, but they're not as small as they could be. The arms are too big in proportion to the rest of the body, and it has these pronated hands. So this is something I hadn't mentioned in the other videos before because they were accurate. Here I'm pointing out the inaccuracies that this is like a dinosaur doing Thriller, you know? Dinosaurs did not hold their hands like this. They held them like this. Pronated hands. They're meant to grasp and hold their prey or hold their food. Whether they're carnivores or herbivores, they held their hands like this or like this if they were walking on all fours. But if they're holding them up, they go like this. The toe, oh man, look at these monster feet. These are huge. Wow, look how big they are compared to the tail. That's already half the tail. Probably for good stability. probably for good stability. It isn't as shrink wrapped as the other ones, which I appreciate. It's a very chonky T-Rex, and a chonky T-Rex is a happy T-Rex because that means it ate. Tail is shorter than I would like. It just ends right there. The tail should be just a slightly longer than the body length, but it seems to be about the same length as the body. Let's see if it has a cloaca. It does not. These earlier dinosaur models don't tend to have a cloaca, but it does have some nice neck folds that shows that it wasn't just shrink wrapped or too chubby. That's a good one.
Okay, George, we just got done looking at the green one. Let's look at the 3 color variants all together.
Like Kevin said, they are all the same sculpt. Let's start with the darker one, this Shadow T-Rex. This one has red eyes, which I personally think is super cool. The teeth pop out a lot more, and my goodness, it looks like the stuff out of nightmares, and that's exactly what T-Rex should be, the stuff out of nightmares. Moving on to this next one. This one kind of has a Spider-Man theme going, and I'm a big fan of Spider-Man, so this one's pretty cool. Did you know that there is a character in the Spider-Verse called Spider-Rex? Spider-Rex is a T-Rex with Spider-Man powers, which is ridiculous. Can you imagine it like web slinging with like 2 tiny arms? But if you're a fan of Spider-Man and T-Rexes, that would be a good choice for you. And then this other one, this one looks like a lava or like an angry T-Rex. That one is kind of a cool concept of a color, like hot coals. Also has red eyes. All of these are exactly the same. The only differences are the paint schemes that I pointed out.
Okay, George, is there any one of these models that stands out as more accurate than the others?
Yes, it would be the Juvenile T-Rex. The proportions are great. The scales are more closer to the accurate size. Just the pose in general is more organic and relaxed. So I would say this is the most accurate one. I would pick this one.
If money was no object, George, which model would you add to your collection?
I would pick the Shadow T-Rex. I don't even know if that's its name, but that's what I'm going to call it.
They do call it the Shadow T-Rex.
Awesome. Yeah, this is the one I would pick. I mean, you can see all the details with all the black paint. The teeth pop out, the eyes pop out. It really popped out more to me than all the other T-Rexes.
I just remembered they actually had a different version of that T-Rex, which was shiny gold painted with deep black eyes.
What happened to that one? Was that a limited run?
Limited run and sold out. Okay, that concludes this episode. We looked at the SchleichT-Rexes. George would add the black one to his collection, but found the juvenile one to be the most scientifically accurate. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.